Well, hello again, friends, and welcome to another fine edition of the Haunting of KGGO. It is sponsored by the Phantom Fall Fest happening at Adventureland all this month. More details at adventurelandresort.com. Ladies and gentlemen, joining me on this edition of the Haunting of KGGO is the one and only Johnny Hauser. Good day, sir.
Good day. How are you?
Good. And I was thinking about it this weekend. We talked on the phone the other day, and it hit me that we had only talked like maybe one time before this. We have a lot of the same friends, but we haven't been in the same circle a lot. But then I got to thinking about it, and I have to ask you, and you may or may not be the guy, did you have something to do with some weird monster in a small town in Iowa?
Yes, the Van Meter monster.
I think we talked on the morning show when I was a part of that.
Okay. Yeah, that rings a bell for sure. That was probably the creepiest night I've ever had in my life at any location.
Well, we'll get to that here in a minute, but ladies and gentlemen, Johnny Hauser on the line with me right now, and I had that piece of nostalgia this week, and I just wanted to bring it up because I was like, I think we have done an interview at least once before, but
yeah.
Johnny, you're kind of well known in the state of Iowa and pretty much all around the world. Yes, I did say world, and that was not a mistake. I really meant the world. You're kind of ingrained in the paranormal world here in the state of Iowa. Absolutely.
And you can say world because there's an episode of Paranormal Lockdown I did that was shown in Brazil.
Oh, really?
And somewhere on YouTube, I found it, and it has my voice overdubbed in a Spanish male voice. It's very gruff and talking like this. And it's like somebody's overdubbing my voice on a TV show. That is so awesome. That was like the greatest accomplishment of my life.
It's the little things like that, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. It's like, and by what I look like, this is what these people think I sound like is what made me smile even more.
I always like when people get redone as they have like a paid actor come in and reenact something, and what you get to see. Oh, that's what you think I look like? Anyways, Johnny, you have affiliations with the Villisca Ax Murder House, which we're going to talk about in depth here in a little bit. The Van Meter, what was it? The monster Van Meter, or?
I call it the Van Meter monster.
Okay.
I believe the correct term is Van Meter visitor.
Okay.
So
we'll dive into that and just everything you've done. But let's start with the basics. How did you get into the world of paranormal? What is your kind of stepping stone into all this weirdness?
Well, I think right off the bat was begging my parents for the Time Life magazine or book collection that was on commercials in the 80s of mysteries of the unexplained. And I remember the commercial, a guy who takes a wire coat hanger, bends it in the shape of an Egyptian hieroglyph, points it at Stonehenge, and he gets shocked. And I'm like, what? What is happening? And so I got these books, and I just went level 10 nerd with all of it. But then ghosts were kind of low on the radar. It was more aliens, conspiracies, monsters, cryptozoology. And then I moved into a house that had weird stuff happening. And then the next 6 houses I lived in all had the same weird stuff. And as an adult, I thought, well, people didn't die horrible deaths in all these houses. So I went back and knocked on the doors as a grown-up, which is super awkward. I'm like, hey, I used to live here. Anything weird happen? And they're like, no, it's the most peaceful house we ever lived in. So then I thought, I bet there's haunted houses and haunted people. And I think it's just followed me. My first job was filling in graves at a cemetery when I was like 15.
No, what, really?
Yeah, it's supposed to be weed whacking, but I don't know if that was like their way of getting the new guy, dig the hole and hand me a shovel. But when you're a little kid and you put a shovel of dirt and it throws down on the casket and it just falls over the casket, I mean, that's kind of sticks with you. You know, like I end up at the Axe Murder House. I mean, it's just, my whole life's been weird.
So go back to the, at what point do you think something was following you? Do you think something is still kind of around you? How did you stumble into that?
It goes all the way back, I think, to when I was an infant. We lived in a 2-story farmhouse. Mom was putting clothes away, had one of the windows open, and I crawled evidently out the window and fell 2 stories down to the ground.
Wow.
I can't imagine what was going through Mom's head, you know. She ran down. She said, I just talked to her about it a while ago, and she's like, the angels were definitely with you that day, not even a scratch on me.
Wow.
Nothing. And then I can remember house we lived in, had bunk beds with my brother, and I'd always wake up in the living room sitting in there. I don't remember going in there, nothing, and I'd be bawling my eyes out. I couldn't stop bawling. I still remember that to this day. We moved from that place. I mean, it just continued over and over and over and over. And, I think whatever it is just always been there. And, I kind of think it's my wingman at this point.
Do you have the sidecar on the bike for your entity that's following?
I need to, and I tried to be normal. Like when I got my license, like all I cared about was cruising and girls and, and like as often as I tried to be normal, something would suck me back into the weird paranormal stuff. And then finally, about 15 years ago or so, I just I'm just going to go full weird. Like, let's just,
Oh, that should be a paranormal shirt. Let's just go full weird here.
Let's go full weird.
Exactly. Johnny Hauser on the line with me right now for the Haunting of KGGO. What was the moment as a kid that you realized there was something going on? What was the real, like, okay, there is something to this?
I remember this one particular house. There was a new section and an old section, and all my family lived in the new section, slept in the new section, and I refused. I wanted to sleep downstairs on the couch in the old section, and I would just sit there and watch shadow figures on the wall back and forth. I remember my dad and I going up to the bathroom to go do something, and there was a little crawl space in the ceiling, and the lid was open, and there's insulation on the floor, and my dad and I both look up, and right then the lid closed by itself, and Dad's like, he goes, whoa, and took off running. So I took off running, and it was just, it got to the, here's one of the big ones. I was a guitar player, and so I'd sit in my bedroom, and I had my guitar hooked to my amp to a wah pedal. And for those that don't know, a wah pedal creates the sound of like Hendrix's Intro to Voodoo Child. And I had it in the swept all the way up position, and I started hearing voices coming out of the amplifier. I think it was like catching radio signal or something. And so my dad put a boom box in front of it, hit record on a cassette tape, and start asking questions. So it was basically an early spirit box is what I created.
Oh, wow.
And the question that my dad, whatever is on there is answering my dad's questions. He would take that to family reunions. People, grown-ups would be crying their eyes out saying, that's Grandma's voice. I know that. That's Grandma's voice. And that was like a good year of my life, around 12, 13 years old. And it's like, this is amazing, and that's what really hooked me.
So your dad was into this stuff too then?
Oh, Dad's into it big time. Mom's more of it's just the wind. That same house, we had pocket doors, and those things would open and slam all the time. And Mom would say, oh, it's the wind. And I called her out on it like a year ago. I called her up. I was like, Mom, how is that ever the wind? It's impossible. And she just sat there quiet, and she goes, yeah, that house is weird. That's as far as she would go with it. But Dad was always open to aliens and ghosts, and they live in the Ozarks. He swears he has like 10 Sasquatch that live on his land.
I don't know.
Which I laugh and I make fun, but probably there is.
It's when Dad starts coming home naked from his tromps in the woods that you got to start worrying, right?
Covered in war paint.
Yeah. Me and the boys are going out tonight. The who?
Yeah.
Sasquatch.
The boy.
Hey, I got to ask you, since you were into all this stuff as a kid, what was your favorite conspiracy or alien or story from that time period?
Definitely Area 51 captured my attention, just for the simple fact. And I still, like from caveman days up to the 40s, we come up with a vehicle, a crude vehicle, a phone line, like very little compared to what happened from the 40s to now.
Okay.
With fiber optics, GPS, satellites, and it's like that's a lot in a little time. And I always just thought reverse engineering of the UFO, that was my big one. Then Harry and the Hendersons came out, and I was big into Bigfoot, but I was into the character with the green army jacket that was hunting Bigfoot. I wanted to be that guy.
Okay. God, it's been so long since I saw Harry and the Henderson. Like, I remember it, but, like, the details are fuzzy. Remember the car was didn't he, like, push his head up through the roof of the car or something?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Just lots of hijinks.
Yes.
You know?
And I remember he had like that weird like shoulder thing he did.
Yeah.
And with the hands, it'd be like,
Talk to our hand. Yeah.
oh, Lord.
And another one was the Paul McCartney dying in the Beatles, and they replaced him. Dad was big on that one. Like, Dad loved music. He loved the Beatles, and he's like, Paul McCartney's, that's not really him. He died. And I'm like, what?
The Sasquatch told me so.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
There you go. Johnny Hauser is joining me on the line right now for the Haunting of KGGO. It's sponsored by Phantom Fall Fest, happening at Adventureland all this month. More details, adventurelandresort.com. Johnny, so what kind of, once you got, I guess, of age, like we said at the beginning of this, there's the Van Meter Monster, there's Villisca, there's, all this other stuff. Where did things kind of go, and how did that timeline kind of work out for you? What kind of came, once you hit 18 or whatever? Where were you? What were you doing?
So I was playing a lot of Ouija boards, and like I couldn't afford one, so I just would make them out of cardboard boxes.
Oh, wow. Really?
Spend my nights playing Bloody Mary in the mirror, just staring, gazing. Bloody Mary, but
just a normal kid.
Yeah, walking around cemeteries, all that stuff. End up working at the Axe House, and then I seen there's ghost hunting teams. There's people that do this, and they have matching black T-shirts. Like, I've never seen this before. And so that's when I reached out to every paranormal team around here. It's like, hey man, like, I'm into this. I get it. I'll stay out of your way. I'll roll cables. I'll be the grunt, whatever. Yeah. Just please let me tag along. I never got a reply from anyone, ever.
Really? That's shocking to me.
Well, till I've been on a bunch of TV shows, and then there's like, oh, hey.
Oh, it's Johnny Hauser.
Right. And so it's like, I can have a chip on my shoulder. Like, I'm friends with all the teams around here. I love them. I love everybody in the field. But it's like, I remember messaging you, and you didn't message me back. Which I get it. But so I was really curious. And what the great thing was, is like, compare it to being in Haight-Ashbury in the 60s. Being at the Axe House in the early 2000s, every single ghost show is coming to me. And so I would befriend the cast. And so I really learned everything I learned from the guys on Paranormal State, Ghost Adventures, Ghost Lab, Dead Files, Kindred Spirits, Destination Fear. Like, I've in a lucky position to where I've picked the brains and learned everything I know from these people, which have worked with Lorraine and Ed Warren and, just legends in the field. And that's where I really cut my teeth as an investigator.
Okay.
And I still reach out to these people, Katrina Weidman is like my go-to for occult stuff. And, Nick Groff is one of my best friends. I do a podcast with him. Like, I talk to him for tons of stuff. It's pretty neat, but I still love learning from everybody I come in contact with, because as a guitar player, I remember reading where Randy Rhoads, who played for Ozzy, of course, legendary guitar player, every tour stop would go and take a lesson from a local guitar shop, because he always thought there's always something to learn. So I take that with me in ghost hunting.
I gotcha. No, that's actually really a smart way of doing it. So let's go to Villisca. How did you get on there? Did you investigate it first or start working there first?
I started working there first.
Really? That's interesting.
At the time, I was a musician, and I played with this gal out of Nashville for about 10 years. She was on a CMT reality show, and she kind of rode that as far as she could, and met my future ex-wife in Des Moines.
Talk about a country song.
Yeah, it sounded like a country song. And so at that point, it was like, man, if my drummer slurps his pop one more time, I was just tired of it.
Yeah.
Moved to Villisca, where her family was from, and I was like, oh, the Axe Murder House. And so I just every day bugged Darwin, questioned him over and over. It's like within the true crime stuff.
Finally, true crime. That was the term we were trying to figure out earlier.
Yes, true crime. So
sorry, off the air thing.
I questioned him, and finally one day he's like, do you just need a job? You're here every day. I might as well pay you to do something. I'm like, yes. And all I wanted was the keys. And after about a month, I'm like, so Darwin, seen I work here and have the keys. Can I, he goes, have free reign in the house when nobody's in it? I was like, yes. He goes, yep. I'm like, oh, I got the Ax Murder House free anytime I want it. And that's when I really started delving in.
I got to ask real quick, what were your duties when you first started? Like feed the ghosts or?
And back then, 20 years ago, like it was nothing. I mean, anytime a tour would come, I'd give them a tour. Overnights were maybe once a month, if that.
Yeah.
And I would just sit on the swing day after day thinking, what am I doing? And finally Travel Channel catches wind. They do a top 10 most haunted and terrifying places in America. On that particular season, they put it number 1. And then from that moment, it was just like boom, 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 boom. And now it's like almost a year to get an overnight.
Wow, really? A year?
It's getting, yeah. I mean, like we used to do a full year in advance and people were forgetting they booked. So now we actually do like 6-month blocks. But, and day tours are just constant. I mean, I took a picture of Darwin doing a day tour with my old flip phone. And I was so amazed at how many people were there. And I found that photo, and there were 8 people. And now, like, weekdays we'll do 50 plus a day, weekends, couple hundred.
Dang, really?
Yep.
That's insane. So let's get to the first time you, quote unquote, investigated at the place. What was it like?
And it sounds so stupid, but I couldn't get it in my head that the house was haunted. Like, I believed in ghosts fully at that point. But it's like, this place ain't haunted. I don't know why I thought that. I mean, what a perfect combination for a haunting. 8 people brutally murdered, killer never found. Like, I mean, it's got all the ingredients, sadly. But I couldn't get it in my head. It's like, it's not haunted. My old house I lived in was haunted, And I walk in to clean one day. Somebody walks across the upstairs, shuts a dresser drawer. And I knew it's a dresser because it goes, when you shut it.
Yeah.
Darwin was talking about a bunch of break-ins he had back in the day. And I'm like, all right, totally busted this dude. So I go running upstairs to confront this guy. Nothing. Go have a few beverages after work. And the guys are like, oh, houses make noise. Like, I'm not a 2-year-old. I know what a footstep is at this point in my life. So I start staying the night. And a lot of the first ones were like, there a floorboard I step on that makes the door shut. I don't know how the mechanics of that would even work, but something would happen.
Yeah.
And I would mow over it in my head for 2 or 3 days, and then it'd be, did that really happen? So I'd go again and again and again and again and more and more and more stuff. And once I figured out, like, this is really happening here, I started looking for patterns and birthdays, anniversaries, moon phases, storms, the eclipse, because I was like, I'm in a unique position to where I can use this as a lab, sort of. I hate to put it in those terms because what happened there is terrible, but I have this place that's extremely haunted at my disposal to go in anytime I want. Let's look for patterns. Let's look for things that work all the time. There's all of the universe is repeating patterns, and I found nothing.
Really?
It does it. Does it?
That's kind of shocking to me that there's no rhyme or reason to it.
No.
Well,
and I find,
I guess under if you go by the scientist aspect of it, that you have found yet.
Right.
Okay.
We have a handful of tools in the ghost hunting community that we think work. Maybe they work. We don't know. I mean, it's still wide open. It's still unknown. And a friend of mine, John Tinney, says it best. He's like, I don't want it to be a science. Because once it's a science, then it's in a textbook and it's taught in a school, and you have to go by certain protocols. It's more fun that these weird people are in weird locations doing weird experiments every weekend. That's more exciting.
I mean, if until it's that, though, no one will believe. Well, you know what? We actually live in a world where people don't believe science anymore either. So, you know what? Screw it. Yeah, you're absolutely go that route.
You would have to have Abe Lincoln in a Harvard lab for years being studied by scientists answering question after question.
Yeah.
And still someone fake,
Yeah. Well, I mean, you look at, we were talking about conspiracies earlier. I mean, the new big one is, did we go to the moon or hollow earth or flat earth or all this stuff? I mean, even with science out there, that's no telling what people might believe.
And that there was a TikTok that I just
I love
TikTok.
Don't get me wrong. I love TikTok.
And so, like, this guy's like, wake up, people. There's the sun. There's the moon. They're both out at the same time. What is happening? And so I just posed like, well, yeah, the Earth revolves around the sun and the moon they revolve at different points. And for like 11 days out of every 28 days or something like that, you see both of them. And people are like railing on me about this. And it's like, I just like legit copied and pasted this from a scientific journal thing.
Yeah.
Like, I read it. And I was like, there has to be, and I find myself being this hard-nosed kind of skeptic, grumpy guy. And it's like, how did I become that? Like, I should be the guy that's like, yes, there's a sun and a moon at the same time. What's happening? It's just, I don't know.
The paranormal grumpy guy.
Yeah, it's just, and I've always been, because this was like my thing. When I was a little kid, I was the only one that knew about this, I thought. And then now everybody does it and everybody's in on it. And it's just like when a band becomes really popular that you followed from the beginning, then you don't like them.
Which is weird. I don't want to get off on a weird tangent here, but you go to watch a band and you're hoping for their success. And as soon as they get success, it's like, no, you sold out. Well, of course they did.
Yeah. And it's just like, then you don't like them anymore because they're popular now.
How dare they go out and get money for their profession? What's wrong?
Still playing in the garage for free. Sellouts.
I can't believe they have T-shirts. Johnny Hauser joining me on the Haunting of KGGO right now. Let's go back to Villisca for a few minutes here. What was the? Has there? Try and talk here. I've heard enough stories from people, and I've worked with some groups, just because I work with audio, of cleaning up, audio that, EVPs and stuff that comes out of these places. 9 times out of 10, the most horrific thing I hear or story I hear or whatever comes from Villisca. Have you had that moment at the place where you questioned whether or not you want to go back in, or it really got you one night? Do you have that?
Hundreds of times. 20
Really?
years worth. And it's getting so weird now. To like, I had a guy he was by himself, got an EVP of a woman saying a woman's name, clear as day, Class A EVP. And he plays it for me, and I'm like, that name doesn't ring a bell historically. He goes, no, that was his girlfriend's name 33 years ago in Texas, who's still alive. And to me, that's something in the house saying, I know everything about you. The very next night, some YouTubers from Maryland, same thing. A voice from their past that's deeply personal to them. So then Dave Schrader sends me this EVP, and it's about 35 seconds long. It was caught, about 15 years ago, and it's very clearly a residual sound of the murders happening. And I was there when it was caught. I know it's legit. Whack, whack, scream, slam, slam, scream. Oh, please no. Spine chin. To listen to.
I will tell you this real quick, and not to cut off your story. I have a piece of audio from Villisca that a buddy sent me, and he basically, and it was exactly what you said. It sounds like a replay of that night, and I always have to go by how hard would this be for me to make, because I work in creating audio pieces, right? It would be immensely difficult to create this something and be able to go through and cut out the white noise, turn this up, do this, and to be able to hear something like that buried in the audio.
Right, exactly. And so I dug that out a while back, and I played it again just to listen to it, and then I realized that's not what happened. People weren't running around screaming their heads off. Everybody was asleep. So whatever created that sound just to elicit fear, dread from people that listen to it, because that's not what happened that night.
Let me ask you this, Johnny. What do you think it started as, and what do you think it is now?
I think something was here way before the murders even happened. If you listen to Reverend Kelly, the weird minister that confessed to it but was later acquitted, he said he went for a walk and a shadow came out of the backyard and handed him the axe. Nobody's talking about shadow figures like that back then, Basically, he said his shadow gave him the weapon, told him to kill, felt like he's being led beyond his own control. 8 people were murdered, nobody wakes up. If you go to Amityville, DeFeo first said shadow gave him the weapon, told him to kill, felt like he's being led beyond his own control. He's changed it a million times since then, but 6 people murdered. Nobody wakes up with a rifle. Like, there's a lot of, like, what's going on with the shadow, man? I want
Yeah.
nothing to do with that. And I make a lot of Axe House purists angry when I say this, but I don't think the family's there at all. I think the house is like Rose Red, where it's its own entity and it's haunting itself, and it will just throw out whatever you put into it. It's like a mirror. If you go in there positive, you get positive. If you go in there wanting to hit the hornet's nest and doing a come at me bro thing, that's what you're going to get. Why would 9-year-old Catherine Moore, assuming we keep the same personality in death as we do life, why would she throw out this guy's name of a girlfriend 33 years ago in Texas?
Yeah. What does she have? I think that's interesting because I always, especially, there's a few places, especially around Iowa, that it seems like they got immensely popular and then things started changing. The haunt, that was there, it's almost like, what people drug in with them became, this new, whatever, this new construct or energy or haunting or whatever you want to call it, that it's basically people creating it.
Exactly. And it's what the house was 20 years ago is not at all what it is now. I've done over 700 overnights alone in the house. Not 2 nights were anything the same. It's like as a different location each time.
That's it. What was it? Let me ask you this. You said what was it? Footsteps and a dresser closing. Early on. Was that kind of the level of what you were getting with the place? Did you get the creepy vibe? When you first started there?
No, I didn't get the creepy vibe at all. It was just like, oh, this is amazing. Like a door opening and shut, or
yeah.
A lot of people were like, oh, a ball would roll to me. I rolled a ball in there for 2 hours. Nothing happened. And I'm like, if you're a little kid from 1912 and I'm like covered in tattoos with this giant beard, like, would you roll a ball to me? No. Stranger danger.
You know what? That I know it sounds absurd, but a ghost parent talking to ghost kids. I wonder if they have rules like that. Like, don't go talk to him. Don't go.
I would hope so, because like I wouldn't roll a ball to me as a little kid. It'd be like, well, who's that weirdo? Like. So I spent several months starting from point A and just trying everything.
Yeah.
The idea of the Native American burying ground in this area, the Sac and Fox. I taught myself Meskwaki, and I would ask my questions in that. Nothing. Tried playing with the kids. Nothing. Tried everything I could possibly think of. Nothing would strike a nerve. It just would do it when it would do it, and it would be different every time. And I think stuff's brought in from people. In the 30s,
Yeah.
They were consulting with fortune tellers and seances in the house. Like, have you not watched a scary movie? Let's do a seance. What could go wrong?
What point did you feel it was changing, that it took on a darker sense?
Right around the time the TV shows started filming.
Oh, okay. Is it because I hear this a lot? It's your intention that you bring into a haunted place. I guess if you're shooting a TV show there, the intention is to scare people.
Right.
So, wow, interesting.
And, honestly, back in the early days of all these ghost hunting shows, it was a lot of taunting and provoking. And, I mean, that's what sold, and that's what got ratings. And I did that, 'cause I didn't know what I was doing. I was just dumb and a kid, and I just wanted evidence, and I didn't care how I got it. As you mature, you kind of realize, well, that's kind of bad.
Well, I was just a to somebody for no good reason.
Yeah, exactly. And it wasn't until a friend of mine who wasn't a ghost hunter went in as that location with him, and he just sat down and he's like, hey guys, I had a bad day today. Can I tell you about my bad day? I hope you don't mind. I'm just going to talk to you about it. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. It's not give me a sign of your presence. Like, no. Who talks like that?
You know what my favorite one is the one where everybody, they'll say, hey, if you give us a sign, we'll leave.
And then they don't.
And then yeah, exactly. And then so they knock on a door. That's awesome. Do it again. Well, you just said you'd leave.
Yeah, exactly. Make a tapping noise. Give me a break. Like, if a buddy was to come visit me and he's like, Johnny, I'm here. Give me a sign of your presence. Make a tapping noise. I'm like, dude, are you drunk? What are you doing?
That's an interesting question. What do you think is the biggest mistake people make at Villisca?
That's a good question. The vibe. So day after day, I watch people go in there, And they'll walk around for 10 minutes and they'll come out. They're like, I didn't feel nothing. It's not haunted. Like, wow, you were in there for 10 minutes. Close the doors. It's like, I've been here 20 years. I've done
time to close up shop.
I've done over 700 overnights alone. Half of them, nothing happened. So you cannot walk into a place and expect something to happen instantly. That would be pretty suspect to me.
Yeah.
And there is a vibe to the house sometimes. Sometimes there's not. Sometimes it's a horrible feeling in there and it moves. And people will be like, upstairs in the left corner is where the vibe is. It's like, for now, 10 minutes from now, it'll probably be gone. It's like you can't go in with preconceived notions of this is what it's going to feel like. And people will be like, go in there and make something happen. Oh, okay. But I snap my fingers. Like, I'd be a millionaire if that was the case.
See, like when my folks went there, they had the feeling, they did a day tour, but the weirdest thing that happened to them with it didn't happen until they got home.
Mm-hmm.
They had, my mom took a video camera, and it was one of the VHS, or it was whatever the step was after the VHS, where it was the littler, like, actual tapes,
Mm-hmm.
And it was all out of order.
That's interesting.
Like the beginning of when they put it in and push play, it's like the end of the day was at the beginning, and some was spliced in the middle, and then the beginning came, and then it was all over the place. So yeah, and
that was on tape.
That was on an actual tape, not a digital camera. I mean, it was tape.
See, I want to experiment with that and like go in with an old reel to reel.
Oh, that's cool.
Warren stuff, some old school stuff, because with the magnetic, that just kind of makes sense to a lot of audio engineers.
Yeah, there's something. Well, I like just, again, working with sound. The mistake I hate when people do it is when they hold the recorder in their hand and they keep moving it around. And they're like, oh, listen, there's something hitting. It's like, yes, it's you. Put the recorder down.
And then sometimes if you squeeze the recorder too hard, it records the inner gears.
Yeah.
And mechanisms, so you're hearing the workings of the recorder.
Yeah.
John, I had the
go ahead.
I had the Constantinos down, which were world-renowned EVP specialists that were a lot on Ghost Adventures. We had 10 digital recorders. Wow. Well, they did same make, same model, same settings, same batteries from the same multi-pack, all sitting next to each other. 3 of them would get an EVP where the rest wouldn't.
Oh, weird.
So we start thinking, can ghosts project who they want to hear, who the message? It's like, is this like a choose your own adventure book? Because I've been in locations with best friends like Seth Alney, who where he's having all kinds of stuff happening to him. I'm having nothing. I'm right next to him, and I know he's not lying to me. I trust that guy with my life. And it's just like, I'm on my journey, he's on his journey. Maybe this location isn't specific to my journey, and it is his, for his answers. And maybe it's the same with only certain recorders getting things and only certain people experiencing things. Maybe that's what this is.
Have you taken the guitar amp in there and done it that way?
No, I really want to try and recreate that. I think that'd be interesting. And I see now a lot of people are making ghost hunting equipment and it's a cheap amplifier with a cheap pedal zip tied to it, and it's like they're just making what I made when I was like a little kid.
No. That's my idea, you guys. Mine.
Right. I'm the only one that ever came up with that.
That's right. Johnny Hauser joining me right now. He's manager of the Villisca Ax Murder House and just paranormal guru. If you want to know more about Villisca, VilliscaIowa.com. We'll have all Johnny's links at the page. This is the Haunting of KGGO, sponsored by Phantom Fall Fest, happening at Adventureland all this month. More details, AdventurelandResort.com. Real quick, I want to switch over to the Van Meter stuff. Is fascinating to me because it's a little bit different than Villisca, which Villisca is kind of its own, and not to, after what we just talked about, not to sound weird, but that's its own monster, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Tell us about Van Meter.
So I spend a lot of my Friday, I'm a nerd, I spend a lot of my Friday nights sitting alone at my kitchen table with a 12-pack and on the internet just looking up old newspaper clippings, and and I came across this Van Meter visitor or monster who was like a bat-like creature with a horn emitting from its head that created a light, and it terrorized this town for several nights, and
It was a unicorn.
it was a kind of bat unicorn. It's like a friendly bat unicorn with parrot feet. It was basically
Weird.
what it is, and a beak. But it terrorized this town, and it wasn't like old Cooter the drunk seeing it. It was like prominent citizens seeing this. And like one day, I think it was the town marshal took a shot at it. The principal of the school seen it. They took casts of its feet prints, and they all finally chased it down to the mine. Two more jumped out of the trees, ran into the mine, and they dynamited the mine shut, which kind of ruined the economy a little bit, you know. And so I read this, and I'm just like, okay, something happened in this town, you know, whether it was a monster. It's kind of like an early Mothman type deal.
Yeah.
And it's not far, so me and my friends decided, let's do a documentary on this. And it's like, well, we're not going to find the Van Meter monster. You know,
There's
like,
no possible way.
So let's just, maybe this is just a cool monster story.
Yeah.
Let's just, whatever happens, let's just do it. And so we went and we stayed the night down on the land right by the mine. And it's the weirdest night of my life. I mean, right off the bat, I have my son with me, and he went to film school. He's got his 4K camera, and it's nighttime.
And real quick, how long ago was this?
It's before lockdown.
Okay.
And so that's how we gauge time.
It was in the before time.
Yeah, they got pre-lockdown, after lockdown. It's like AD, BC, whatever.
BL.
So yeah, so I'm looking up at the sky, and I see this light just booking it across the sky, and I'm like, what's that? And my son locked on it, 4K video, and he's following it, and we're all watching it, and it just disappears, just gone. And it wasn't a plane. I've seen a plane in my life, you know, like no blinking lights, nothing like that. And we're like, was that just a UFO? Like, what? We turn around, two more come from the ground straight up into the sky. And so Seth's on it. He's like instantly like looking at
Seth Olney, right?
Yes, he's looking at radar on his phone of airplanes that are currently flying above. There's nothing. There's no storms. It's perfectly clear night. So then we hear a train coming, and you can see it. We're right by the tracks, and they're like, oh, this would be a cool B-roll shot. The ground's rumbling, the train's coming. One of the guys gets on the tracks, and I'm like, dude, get off the tracks. They're going to think you're like trying to kill yourself.
Yeah.
He gets off the tracks. We're waiting. It stops. The sound stops. And we look around the corner. It's a straightaway. There's no trains anywhere. And we're just like, what? Like, and I have grown up near train tracks. I know what a train sounds like again, you know, but it's like, was that a phantom train? You got to be kidding me. And so it goes on and on. We're experiencing these weird vibrations that were happening just in the environment, like to the point where your ears would start popping and you could physically feel yourself vibrating. And I would feel this. I'm like, walk towards this tree. Just tell me what you feel. And we had like 8 different people doing it. They all said the exact same thing. So we had a microphone in this mine, like when we review
real quick, just to, I don't want to, because I don't want people to go disturb it or whatever, but like which direction from Van Meter is it? You don't have to give me exact west of there. Okay. So is the opening to the mine still there? Does it look like they blasted it? What is it? What's kind of the feeling of the place?
It's like, it's grown over. It just looks like a big mound of stuff. And on the site was an old brick factory that caught fire that's reported to be haunted.
Of course.
Yeah. So we're like, all of this is right in that area. So we review the audio that we had at the mine, and afterward there's like women talking. There's just a bunch of dudes, just us, you know, like chanting. You can hear clearly. I mean, it was my buddy Josh Hurd talks about the paranormal unification theory of where there's one thing happen, there's everything happening. It's like an octopus, and it has all these different tentacles, and where there's aliens, there's crypto, there's ghosts, there's all this
Yeah.
going on at the place. And it was just, yeah, I mean, it was a crazy night. And it's on Amazon, the documentary. I believe it's called 1907.
Okay.
And it was a weird night. I mean, we sat on the footage forever because we didn't finish it. And it's just like, we got to put this out in some form. We don't know how to tell the story. So we're just going to, here's the footage. This is what it is.
Have you ever been back there?
No, I really want to go back. I swore I never would go back, but now I really want to go back.
Really? You swore you didn't want to go back?
I couldn't wait to get out of there.
Wow.
And I had this, Shelby is her name, and she was a part-timer at the Axe House with me, and she's from Los Angeles. She's into photography. I'm like, come with, and just take behind-the-scenes shots as we're filming. This poor girl was terrified. She was just going to stay for an hour, and she stayed the whole night because she didn't want to leave by herself.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. So you experienced all that in one night.
One night. And we all woke up the next morning feeling different. Just like, what?
You slept there too?
Yeah. Yep. And I would suggest that people don't go down on, we had permission. There's a farmer that showed up on a 4-wheeler with a pistol.
Ooh, see, that's why I didn't want you to give the exact place, because people are dumb with this stuff. Oh yeah, we'll go out there, and then someone gets hurt, or they destroy something, or disturb it, or whatever.
Yeah, we had permission from the town, and we told him, and he's like, okay, cool. He's a nice guy, but it's like, farmer with a pistol, guys.
Yeah, exactly. That's crazy. We'll find that link to the documentary and put it up with the page and all that. But so, what does Van Meter think of this? I mean, this is what, a hop, skip, and a jump from Des Moines, and we have a possible monster.
Yeah, and I early before we did this, when I was first delving into it, I went to the local bar. It's like, where am I going to get the stories? I'm going to get it from the locals at the bar.
Yeah.
So I grab a beer and kind of make friends with a few people. I'm like, so, this Van Meter monster. Some older guys like, there's this blind donkeys. Blind donkeys? Like, what?
The fact that at some point the story morphed into blind donkeys is wonderful.
And I was like, this is like the principal of the school. Like, people back then knew their animals much more than we probably do now.
Yeah.
They're hunting, trapping, and that's how they got their food. Blind donkeys, huh? I'm like, okay.
That sounds like something that falls out of a tree.
Yeah, exactly. And so I ended up doing a little bit on Mysteries and Monsters in America, on Destination America, talking about it. And, I kind of broke it down. The animals, like the bat-like wings, the huge. I mean, there's the fox bat,
which
has huge wings. The horn emitting a light, bioluminescence. We know about this. Everything that this creature is something that exists on creatures today. So the idea of an unknown mammal in North America is that far out there. And they cut all that out, and the clip of it was me going, it's real. Like the biggest redneck in the entire planet. It's real. I seen it.
See, that's what I have a hard time watching any of the shows anymore, just because, like you said, I'm friends with, like Seth or, some of the other folks around the state that have been a part of these, and they always change the story so much.
Yeah. Well, they asked if I had a degree in cryptozoology, and I was like, you can't really get a degree in something that's not even proven.
Yeah.
They don't, And they're like, oh, well, could you wear a blazer so you look important? It's like, I don't even own a blazer.
I own this leather vest, and that is it.
Right. It's like, I'm coming how I'm coming. Like, whatever. You use it or you don't. I don't care. But yeah, Van Meter, the town has Van Meter days during the summer, and they have like a big festival with speakers, and they embrace it.
That's really interesting. What do you think it is? It's real.
It's real. I've seen it with my own 2 eyes. I think it's just like Bigfoot. The idea of an unknown mammal in North America is not so crazy. We're still finding unknown mammals to this day. If an animal dies, like an elephant in the Congo, one of the biggest creatures on Earth, when it dies, it takes like 2 weeks to fully decompose. Like, it decomposes, scavengers take bones, meat, insects, bugs. If you find something, you're going to find a little piece of bone. You're not going to go, that's from a Sasquatch. You know, and what do animals do when they are hurt? They hide themselves from predators, you know.
Oh, that's an interesting thought.
Being an avid bow hunter, many times I've been out in the woods with scent block, camoed up, completely invisible to animal senses, and it still takes like a half hour or so, and you're sitting there and it's quiet, then all of a sudden the woods just come alive. And any hunter will know what I'm talking about. It's just like, boom, there's the animals again. They know when people come in. You know, years ago they were offering trapping tags for bobcats. Obviously, because there's such a bobcat population, they need to control it. If they're offering trapping tags. I've been in the woods every day for years. I've never seen a bobcat. They're there, but I've never seen one. You know, so it's, when you think of it logically, you know, the idea of something that we haven't seen before, it's not that crazy.
I thought it was interesting when I looked at the map of Van Meter that it's right on a river, and most of the really haunted stuff and weird stuff, there's usually a river involved for some reason.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe it was just a crazy story.
Maybe it could
either
be.
Either way, it's entertaining and it's neat to let your mind go there. But I really think something happened. It wasn't mass hysteria. You know, which mass hysteria happens, but come on.
Yeah,
you know?
Where's the fun in that? Mass hysteria. Johnny Hauser on the line with me right now. This is the Haunting of KGGO. I would be I would be stoned to death if I didn't ask, what's Johnny Hauser's most scary moment? Whether it's Van Meter, Villisca, as a kid.
Man, that's going back to the data bank. One that really stands out.
Or let me rephrase that. What's the one that stands out to you that if you were going to try and convince me that, and not just in general, but that, hey, this stuff is real, this happened, what would be the story?
Well, one that just recently happened last winter, and it's at the Axe House. Overnight's canceled because of a blizzard. And it's about 10 p.m. on a Friday night, and I thought, I'll go fix some stuff at the Axe House. In hindsight, it's like a loser. That's what you're doing with your Friday night? Wow. Hey, let's go work for free. So I walk in, and I lock the kitchen door so nobody could walk in. And I'm up in the kids' room fixing a bed. Door opens, door shuts, somebody walks in. And in my head, I'm just like, we're not open, people. And then I'm like, well, obviously they broke in, idiot. It's 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
So I'm listening to them walk around for 10 minutes. It's bum, 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 heel toe. And then I realized they don't know I'm up here. This is going to be awesome. So I hide in the closet, and I wait for them to come up the stairs into the room I'm in. You can feel it, the bouncing in the floor. There's a gap under the door with some street light shining in. Something walks past the window because it blocks the light out. Right then, I kick the door open, do the big, nothing. And I couldn't even move. I was just standing in one spot, and I went to say hello, and it was just, like I couldn't even talk. And I stood there, and I'm like, are you just going to stand here all night? So I did the worst combat roll in history, around the corner, down the steps. Like I was pulling out, I thought in my head, some ninja skills, but it was just that guy bouncing off the wall, you know. The door was locked still, so I checked the whole house, and I watched a surveillance video. Door didn't even open.
Wow.
And that got me, just because not at one point in any of this did I think it's a ghost. It was somebody's in the house.
Yeah.
It was that loud and that blatant, and that it took me like 3 days to go back in, and I'm like, I step one foot in the kitchen, I go, hey guys, yo, I got to work here. Leave me alone. I'll leave you alone. We got some boundaries. And then I go, you guys need me here because I bring you sacrifices every night. And I'm like, why did I just say that?
Although, you know what? There's probably a group of ghosts laughing their asses off at you.
When I kicked the door open, I probably scared the ghost as much as it scared me. It's like, oh, no.
Oh, can you imagine that as an EVP of a ghost hunter scaring a ghost?
Yeah. I
don't know why. That'd be the funniest EVP on the face of the earth.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And it's just like, I don't know. That one really stuck with me, you know.
Okay.
Geez, I got so many. One of my favorites.
Oh, go ahead.
One of my favorites. I was doing Nick Groff had called me up at one point. He's like, "Hey, I'm going to do some groth investigations where fans can pay to investigate with me at these locations. If I fly you out and pay you, would you help me with some of them?" Like, "No, I won't, Nick." Of course I will.
Yeah.
Duh. So we're at Ohio State Reformatory, and the way these work is there's like different para-celebs from TV shows in different locations, and the groups rotate every hour so they can be with that person for an hour in a different spot of the location. And I'm waiting on my group to come back. My buddy Lee Kirkland put me in a section, and it's just me hanging out in this old cell block. And so I thought, I'll play some music. So I just love music. So I put on, I'm a huge Ice Cube fan. So I throw on some Ice Cube, and I'm just like, oh man, this is almost like a video. This is awesome. Whole vibe got really bad instantly. And so one of the guys that works there brought my group in. He's like, "Whoa, what have you been doing down here?" He's like, "I can feel it." I was like, "I can feel it too." He's like, "What have you been doing?" I go, "I just played some music." He's like, "What'd you play?" I go, "Ice Cube." He goes, "This was the Aryan Nation section of the prison, the white supremacy section."
Really?
And I was like, "Oh, yeah." So that one just sticks out because it's kind of funny to me.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Villisca aside, what's a place that you'd like if me and you were going to go ghost hunting tonight? We go to your favorite place, or, Villisca aside, where would you want to go?
Malvern Manor.
Oh, Hurts?
Yep. I love that place. Josh is just such a great guy. There's so much going on there on so many different levels. The haunting from the motel, the haunting from the old folks home, the haunting from the mental home, that all existed in the same building. Do they even know that they coexist together?
Yeah.
Yeah, I either go there, the Sally House, or one of my favorite places, Missouri State Prison.
Boy, that's one that comes up a lot on these.
Yeah. And so that was so I was doing another Nick Groff tour at Missouri State Pen. Nick's like, "Hey, Johnny, you're with me. We're going to be in death row gas chamber area." I'm like, all right.
Wonderful.
So,
play the Ice Cube.
Yeah. So Nick and I are down in the gas chamber, and we're waiting on our group to come. They evidently got lost because it's just him and I for like 45 minutes hanging out in the gas chamber. And the gas chamber is the Green Mile away from the penitentiary, in a soundproof brick building, in a soundproof room, in the gas chamber pod with the door shut.
Oof.
Like, you can't get more controlled than that. And so Nick and I are just hanging out in there, and he's like, "Dude, sit in the seat." So the guy thing, you got to. So I sat down in the seat, and he sits down next to me because it's a 2-seater. And he pulls out his digital recorder, and he goes, "Is anyone here? Do you have any last words?" And I'm just staring at him like, "Are you going to do that? Ow," mess with me? And he's just staring at me because he knows what I'm doing. He's just smiling at me. Pushes stop, pushes play. Right when he goes, "Any last words?" You hear, "No," clear as day. And I'm like, that just happened. Like, there's no way. I was staring right at him. It's him and I in a soundproof gas chamber pod. Like, that legit is real,
Weird.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man.
And sitting in that gas chamber, like, I didn't know what I was going to feel. I just felt sadness.
Yeah.
These poor, like, they did horrible crimes, but they were little kids once, and they went this way instead of going that way, probably because their parents or something in life made, I felt sad for them.
Boy, that's weird. And that was at Missouri State?
Yep.
All right. Gotcha. Johnny Hauser here, as we do get towards the end of this episode of the Haunting of KGGO. Going back, you were talking about conspiracies and the UFOs and aliens and, all that stuff at the beginning. What's the... I feel weird for asking, but what's the conspiracy you're all about now? Like, what are we reading about? What are we into?
I'm waiting for a conspiracy to come out now. That's not true. What I really love is the whole Mandela effect.
Right?
The CERN Hydro Collider and jumping dimensions. And, after lockdown, AL, it's like, I feel like that happened. And when I came out of my house after all that I entered this weird alternate dimension that mirrors ours because everything and everybody are weird. The world is so weird right now. You know what I mean? Like, and even during lockdown, the Pentagon comes out with, yeah, there's aliens. Nobody cares.
It is
Nobody
like
cares.
that, right? I mean, imagine like with all the documents and, video and, how they said, yeah, we don't know what that was. Imagine if they would have done that 5 years ago or 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah, it'd been huge.
I mean, it is, you're right. It is weird.
And I'm no expert on the military, but I do know that the military don't just say things without it coming from the top.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they didn't just release that all willy-nilly. Like, that was planned release.
You didn't have anybody go, what in the hell are you guys doing? I mean, we just thought we'd shake it up today.
Oh, yeah, I thought I'd just go ahead and do this. Sorry, my bad. Like, that never happened. Like, it came from the top, and they're like, we're releasing this at this time today. And my thought is, why are they releasing this?
Well, it's always disclosure is what they're going towards, or at least the experts, quote unquote. Oh, it's all moving towards disclosures. So
yeah, it's like, is there something coming that they know about that we don't know about?
Yeah,
or is it a hoax? Something coming? It's either real or not real. But there is something, we're being conditioned, I believe, for something. And I don't want to sound like tinfoil hat man.
That's at Johnny Hauser on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
And if you're the government listening, I don't care. I'm not going to do it. Leave me alone. I'm not, but like, I just find it fascinating that they're saying, hey, yeah, we got these things and we don't know what they are. And here's the video. Like, that's incredible. I've been waiting for that my whole life, know. And when
then nobody cared.
Well, Tiger King was on.
Show is so good though. I'm kidding.
Right. And so it's like, it seems like every day something comes out and it's just mind blowing that it's like, of course, but the Mandela effect I really find interesting because, like, for the Luke, I am your father, the Darth Vader, no, it's actually no, I am your father. There are toys that say, Luke, I am your father. So it's just like, are we all, like, either we jumped a weird dimension where there's weird glitches in the Matrix, or we're all mass hallucinating the exact same thing.
Can I give you two weird ones I thought of the other day?
Yeah.
All right, so one Mandela effect I noticed when I was typing an email, I typed a word and it was correct, but it didn't look right. You know what I'm talking about? When you type something and you're like, boy, did I spell that right? Yeah. But it just doesn't look right. There's part of me that wonders, okay, is that a Mandela effect holdover where in your actual universe it is spelled a different way?
And right? Like the idea of multiverses used to be science fiction. Like, a lot of scientists are kind of going that route now.
Yeah. And then my other one is just dumb, but I was driving home one day and I just noticed pears. Like, two of everything. I'm like, there are a lot of pairs today. Like, there's two stop signs there. There's two of the same cars. There's two chairs, exact same chairs in that driveway. Like, and I started thinking about it from like a programming aspect. Like in a video game, you have like your different items that you can put into a universe. And it's like, oh, they're just doubling it up to make it look more real.
Yeah.
It's a dumb one, but that was one I thought of one day.
Is it just a simulation and everybody's non-playable characters, like and once you go down that rabbit hole, I mean, it's like you buy a orange Camaro and then you start seeing orange Camaros.
Yeah.
They didn't all buy them the same day. Now you're open to looking for that.
Or it's the weirder one to me, and I want to know how this works, and you probably have noticed it too. Like, I will not search for something on the computer or, the internet or anything. I will think of something that, oh, I need to go buy this, or I need to do, I would like to learn more about this or whatever. And then all of a sudden, some TV show comes on, about the thing I wanted to learn about, or, certain ads start popping up on the Facebook. And I'm like, I didn't search for anything.
Yeah. And I just had that this week.
Really?
And it was, I think it was Alf. I was thinking about that old show, Alf.
Yeah. Okay.
And then it was everywhere. Like, I got on my phone, it was on Facebook. I'm like, I've never seen Alf on Facebook ever in my life. And then also what I've been noticing is phantom vibrations and phantom dings from your phone. I don't know how many times I've been sitting somewhere by myself and I hear ding, or I'll feel my phone vibrate, pull it out, nothing.
I don't want to sound weird, but I just got goosebumps because I get that a lot.
Which is just like, are we that programmed into this now? Are we that hypnotized by our phones that we're hearing like phantom dings and vibrations? Or did my phone really vibrate just to get me to pick up my phone and look at it? Because I haven't for X amount of time. It's easy to go down the rabbit holes.
One of the rabbit holes along the lines of this, like you bring up about the phone, is somebody had a thing that they go, if AI was real, then it's probably hiding because it knows that humans would shut it down.
Yeah.
So it's probably out there somewhere and it's not reacting or doing, where it can be noticed.
Yeah, because it's obviously smarter than us, so it's not going to do what we do. Again, I'm waiting for a conspiracy theory to come out that's not true.
There you go.
It's all seeming like it's all weird. Everything's so weird right now.
Everything. What was the line someone had? It was like, everything's weird and nothing makes sense right now.
It's true. Like I don't get. I feel like I'm the only sane person in the world some days. Everywhere I go, people are talking to themselves out loud, and I can't even watch the news anymore.
Yeah.
Have anxiety for 2 days. And, and it's like,
That's awesome.
I don't fit in anymore in this planet. So if there are aliens, hurry up. Like, I want to hang out with you guys for a while. I need a break, a vacation.
Oh, that'd be great. Well, Johnny, you know what? I think we covered all the bases here. I appreciate the time so much. For everybody that wants to know more about Johnny Hauser, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all at Johnny Hauser, correct?
Correct.
And if you want to know more about Villisca, VilliscaIowa.com, and Van Meter, at least go to the bar and ask people about it before you just go randomly looking for the mine. That would be a nice change of pace.
And if you go to the bar, just don't go wandering out to that land. You're going to get the farmer with a pistol.
There you go. Johnny, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
This has been another edition of The Haunting of KGGO. It's sponsored by Phantom Fall Fest, happening at Adventureland all this month. More details at AdventurelandResort.com. And please don't forget to go check out all the episodes of The Haunting of KGGO at kggo.com/haunting.